All right, this is Breaking the Silence, episode number 2, and in this video I want to talk about my influences, and these are the people that have had the greatest impact on me artistically and creatively. The first person that I would point to is my Uncle James. He had both an indirect and a direct influence on me, in the sense that indirectly, like ever since I was a kid, I would always see him involved in art on some level. So if I went over to my grandparents' house and he was there, he'd be working on some kind of project, and so I'd always see him involved in the arts. But he also had a very direct impact in my life because I lived with him during my college years while I was studying art as well. And so, he would encourage me, challenge me, give me feedback on my art and that kind of thing. And even recently I was able to reconnect with him, and he really just encouraged me and pushed me to continue in art. So he would be a huge influence in my life. The next person I will point to is this guy right here. This is Marcel Duchamp, and he is a French contemporary artist, and I would argue one of the most important and influential artists of the modern age. Much of modern art is tied back to him. But for me, what was so important about him is that he helped me to think conceptually. Beyond just drawing pretty pictures, he helped me think about a philosophy of art. So he's definitely a huge impact on my life. Third person is this guy, and this is an author, Franz Kafka. This is my favorite book of all time, The Trial. It's kind of a depressing book. The guy wakes up arrested. He finds out he's arrested, and then the whole rest of the book he's trying to find out why he's been arrested. And spoiler alert, at the end he never really finds out. And you'll see that, in my comic book that I'm writing, when you consider even the title, The Silence, the whole point of why it's called The Silence is because these characters are trying to find answers, and they can't find answers. They keep running into dead ends. And so you'll see that direct influence from Kafka. The difference is, in my work, they eventually find the answers. So that's where we differ a little bit, but you'll see that influence in my life. Comic book-wise, I would point to 3 main people. First one is Marc Silvestri. It's funny, I was going through my comics and realized I only actually own one comic book by Marc Silvestri, and it's this old beaten up Wolverine from the 90s. So I couldn't believe that when I looked through the stuff, because he has had such a huge impact on my life. Second person would be Will Sportaccio. This is an old wet works that he did. This was his independent work from the 90s. And then the number 1, Jim Lee. That's his X-Men number 1. Look at that. So these guys, whenever I want to see where I need to improve, I look at these guys. Their style is expressive, their anatomy is on point, their ability to tell stories is amazing, and so I often go back to them for inspiration and to be challenged and to be pushed to the next level. So you'll definitely see their influence in my style and the way I draw. But yeah, so those are the guys that I would look to. And then finally, I have 2 authors, philosophers. The first one is Francis Schaeffer. There's a little picture of him. And the other one is C.S. Lewis. This is his Space Trilogy. These 2 guys are Christian philosophers, and so they write a lot about the relationship between religious belief, particularly Christian belief, and the arts. And so they just help me sort out that relationship and how all that works together. And you'll see a lot of, with Francis Schaeffer, he talks a lot about the history of art, philosophy, and how to approach that from a Christian perspective. C.S. Lewis writes a lot of fantasy and science fiction works, and you see a lot of Christian themes in that. And so you'll see that in The Silence. I write from a Christian perspective, and so you'll see the way they think about things has definitely impacted how I approach literature, how I approach art and storytelling and the rest. So these are the main guys that have really influenced and impacted me. And there's a lot more than that, but those are the ones that I look to most frequently, and I would say had the biggest impact in my life.